Hi, I'm Ian. Thanks for tuning in to another episode on ForgottenWeapons.com. Today we're out here with World War II Bren Gun. This is the standard British light machine gun from World War II. These were designed through the 1930s and went into production during World War II. This particular one is a 1942 dated Mark I Star. So it's kind of an intermediate model of the Bren. Now, for those of you who aren't familiar with the Bren, it is an open bolt, air-cooled light machine gun. Caliber is .303 British, and these were derived from the Czech ZB26 and ZB30 series of guns. There was some progressive development, and an early stage of the Bren was submitted to the British Army for testing in 1933, made a few more changes to it, and eventually adopted it as the Bren. For what it's worth, the Bren, BR is for Brno, the arsenal in Czechoslovakia, EN is for Enfield in England, where these were actually manufactured. Start, obviously, we remove the magazine. Check the chamber, make sure it's clear. Now the Bren has, close the magazine cover, and the Bren has a detachable, quick detachable barrel. So we'll pull the handle up. And then this is the barrel catch. We open that, and the barrel slides out. So if we were in the middle of shooting and had just overheated the barrel, we can take a new barrel, slide it in, snap that down, turn down the handle, and carry on shooting. In this case, I'm going to go ahead and further disassemble the gun. There's one push pin here at the back of the receiver. It's a captive pin. We'll pull it out. That allows the entire lower assembly to come out. We have a bolt carrier, gas piston, and then the lower assembly, the recoil spring, shoulder stock, pistol grip, firing mechanism. Last step, remove the bipod. And this whole thing is actually the Bren gun receiver. It's a fairly large chunk of metal. One interesting thing about the Bren, you can see in here a separate little piece. This is actually the locking shoulder. This is what the gun headspace is against. And the way they built these was to have interchangeable locking shoulders so that you can adjust the headspace on the gun. If the gun gets heavily worn, you can switch out the locking shoulder to bring it back in spec. And this also made manufacture of the gun easier because they didn't have to precisely machine the receiver. Just fit it for the locking shoulder, and then you can check the headspace with a couple different shoulders until you get one that fits in headspaces correctly. On the bolt, like I said, this fires from an open bolt, so as this travels forward, the bolt pulls up backwards, and then this surface here is what headspaces against the locking shoulder and locks the gun. So reassembly is fairly simple. Put the bolt assembly in. Put the lower on. Close that push pin. Bipod on right side up. There's that. And there we go.
Should I just come in and get some close-ups?
Yeah. You talk about the sights being offset to the left. One thing you will notice about the Bren here is the magazine is mounted centrally on top of the gun, which means you can't exactly sight down the center of the barrel. So as you can see, the front and rear sight are both offset to the left of the gun, which allows you to get a nice sight picture despite having a big magazine.
Could you point that out?
Yeah. So we have the rear sight back here.
Hold on. All right, point.
All right. So as you can see, there's a magazine centrally located on the top of the gun, which means you can't exactly sight down the center of the gun. So instead, what they did is offset the front and rear sights on the left side of the gun. This allows you to get a clear sight picture past the side of the magazine. The other neat thing about the early Brens, the Mark I and the Mark I Star, is they have this dial rear sight. If you can see the little number here, that's set in hundreds of yards, and so you can adjust your elevation simply by rotating this dial. And it has a cammed surface inside that raises the sight the appropriate amount for whatever range you're using. By the later guns, the Mark II guns had a more typical flip-up ladder sight on the back instead. So you may have noticed on this or on another Bren gun that you've seen, there are these little levers, latches, front and back of the gun, and they don't really seem to do anything. Well, what these are for are actually mounting the gun to a tripod. In addition to being a standard light machine gun, the Bren was also able to be used in a fixed position, basically like a medium machine gun roll on a tripod. So we have one of the tripods here. You can see there are two mounting points. Drop this on there. Lock the front. Lock the back, and now we have a mounted gun. So elevation is controlled by this screw to elevate and depress the gun. Each partial revolution here is a 3-minute change in angle, and then you also have traverse along this back curve. And if you can see these two little devices, there are stops. There are stops on the tripod so that you can set a specific limited field of fire, lock it down, and the gun will only traverse that far. This would be for a static point defense where you have several guns and you want a fixed field of fire for each one. For an ambush where again you want a fixed field of fire for the gun. You can set these stops. And that way, no matter how excited the gunner gets, they keep their assigned field of fire. So in addition to a regular tripod mount, the Bren tripod could be set up as an anti-aircraft tripod. There's an extra leg that sits out in the back here. And then the gun is free to swivel around. There's also functionality of this handle. When you fold it down, it's actually spring-loaded and you can snap it out like that, which is designed to give you a point of control when firing in an anti-aircraft mode. All right, it's time to shoot this thing. I like this thing. Those are 8-inch steel plates we have at about 100 yards. And it's real easy to nail those things from this anti-aircraft tripod. We don't have any vintage aircraft that are going to fly by that we can shoot at. That doesn't usually get a good reception, but this thing's cool against ground targets. And we're back in business. So with the tripod, the Bren Gun could take the place of a standard fixed mount medium machine gun. Alright, so we're going to put an entire magazine on a silhouette from 100 yards from the ground mount and see just how stable of a shooting platform this really is. Alright, well that's pretty effective. This whole group, and really no outliers, this was from a previous round. This whole group was single, pull the trigger and dump the magazine. The ground mount tripod really makes this into a stable platform for shooting. Maybe not quite so much as something like a Vickers or a water-cooled Browning, but if what you got is a Bren gun, you can stick it on a tripod like that and it's an extremely effective emplaced weapon. So thanks for watching. We sure had a good time shooting this. You know, by World War II, the Brits had really figured out how to do a light machine gun right. Even to this day, the Bren is often considered one of the best light machine guns ever developed. It's extremely reliable, it's light, it's portable, it can be mounted in a variety of different ways for a variety of different uses. It has a nice quick change barrel, and very popular with its users, and I can certainly see why. So check back in again on Forgotten Weapons. We'll have some more videos. We'll be shooting some more cool guns and taking apart some neat things you may never have seen before. Thanks.